Welcome to Grit, Grace, and Resilience. Because apparently surviving plot twists, heartbreak, ADHD, a toxic first marriage, 42 identity crises, having what feels like 37 kids, really only 6, 1,000 character building moments qualifies me to grab a mic and overshare on the internet. But for real, this has been on my heart for a long time. For the women holding it together while falling apart. For the ones who've been silenced, sidelined, and underestimated. For anyone wanting to rewrite their story one messy, unhinged, beautiful chapter at a time. I'm Michelle DeGrange, and this is Grit, Grace, and Resilience. Hello. Today's guest is a true force of nature and a true reminder of what grit, grace, and resilience is all about. Today we have Dawn Aiken, who is a good friend of mine and a nurse practitioner who knows firsthand what it means to hit rock bottom with your health and refuse to settle. After being diagnosed with a debilitating autoimmune condition and finding no lasting solutions in conventional medicine, Dawn found her way to the top and became her own best advocate and transformed not only her life from inside out, but the lives of so many people. She now helps other high-achieving individuals to do the same, reclaim their energy and their confidence and peace in their own bodies and learn to live life filled with purpose. And if that wasn't enough, Dawn is currently training to climb Mount Everest. Who does that? Only unbelievably amazing individuals with grit. Her story is so raw and so bold and deeply human. It is a journey of healing and rising and daring to chase big, wild dreams. And I couldn't be more proud to call her my friend and get to talk with her today and share her story, because there is a story to be told. Welcome, Dawn.
Thank you, Michelle.
I'm so glad to have you on, and I'm so excited. And I want the world to get to hear your story and get to know who you are and what you represent and what you're doing in the world and in the community. So let's start here.
Okay.
I want you to tell me the story that you told me a long time ago about having this vision and this calling at 19 that maybe you didn't understand then, but that you were someday going to climb that mountain. Where did that even come from? And how did you know and then carry this through your life?
Mm-hmm. I first have to qualify. I've talked about like this piece a little bit, but I've never talked about it with somebody like you. And you and I have so much history that we know a lot of the deep stuff behind all these stories. And so I have a feeling I'm going to bawl today because it's you.
It's okay. Bring the tissue. Bring the tissue.
Yeah, just because it's you. Usually I can hold it together better, but very early when I was young, and I do believe that this is the piece that drew me forward in life and drew me out of trauma and drama and all the things. And I was born with an ability to just have a vision, and I don't know how to describe that other than it was just something that was placed inside of me. Like I was a little tiny kid and I could see my future, and I didn't even know at the time what I was seeing. I just knew that I was better than where I was, and that's a big thing when you know where I came from. Foster care, in and out of foster care, just so much garbage and abuse. I was homeless at 16, put myself through high school and college and all the things, and those things are things that I don't talk about an awful lot, and you'll see why later on as we have this conversation more. But what was interesting about that vision of Mount Everest, and as it turns out, it is the one thing in my life that helped propel me through so much. And the story is I was 19 and I was teaching sex education classes to a group of 11-year-olds, and the goal of this sex education 5-week course was self-esteem and protecting yourself from all the boys that are going to ruin your life and all the things, right? That was truly what it was.
Your heart. Could you come and teach it at my kids' school?
Yes, that was truly the goal of this class that I was teaching. And so part of the exercises, we had all these 11-year-olds, and we all had a notebook, and we had had to write down our biggest goal for our life. Now, think about that for a second. Like, now I know how important it is to define what you want and have that vision. But at the time, I didn't have any idea. We were just writing down our goals, right? And so I wrote down in my journal, I wanted to be a doctor and I wanted to be an OBGYN and all these things. Like, I had all these goals that I was writing down. And then when we were circling the table and everyone was reading their goals off, and it came to my goal, and this isn't the first time this has happened. That's the funny thing about this story. This was not the first time. I opened my mouth, and out of my mouth I spoke, I'm climbing Mount Everest. And as I spoke it, and it was not my words. It wasn't my words. I had never had that thought before in my life. It was a supernatural, like, just embodiment of my future.
Did you like hear the that just came
No.
when you said it out loud?
No, I didn't hear that. But there's the thing about me, like, some people will say that they can just have an extra sixth sense, and I have an extra sixth sense where I can feel something. I can feel it in my soul and my heart, and it almost forms like and it sounds wacky to somebody who has never had this happen to them, but people who have had this happen, they understand it very clearly. I have a light just kind of in my heart, and it's almost like a feeling, but also a vision. But when I say a vision, it's like deep in my mind, and it's almost kind of the kind of vision as if it's already happened. It feels like the same way you can see a memory. So if you think about your child, the day your child was born, you can picture it, right? And you can feel it. That's exactly how it is. It's like a picturing and a feeling, but of something that hasn't happened before. And when we talk about this more, you'll see how this is so critical, to what I do and what I help people with, because the truth is when you think it and you feel it, you can become it. And that's so important, as long as there aren't a lot of weird subconscious blocks. But that's too much for this point of the conversation. But
Well, I can't wait to have another one on that, because I love that. Like, I can understand it
so
and
much.
relate to that feeling. I couldn't visualize, like, I've never had a vision, so to speak, of that. But I mean, even this podcast is that feeling where I've always known I was supposed to do something greater and to give back, but I kept looking for it in my career, and until I had my life coach say, why are you waiting for corporate America? You don't start now.
Yes.
And so I get that. I mean, I'm always afraid of what's going to come out of my mouth. So not like you, it doesn't always come out with this like angels and purpose, more terrifying, like not really sure what's going to come out. So, bear with me all through this, but I love that. And I think it's incredible that you could see it. So when I think about you, like, I look at your life, and from an outward appearance, right? Like, we all have this imposter syndrome, but standing on the outside, when I look at you, and I've known you for so many years, this high achiever who, in my mind, could do anything, right? From where we came from. And I do want to know more about that story growing up too, because I think that is what gives us that grit and that resilience to do really, really hard things if we embrace it. You shared this deep feeling of being alone, and I get that at such a profound level, like growing up in 9 schools in 12 years and restarting every year, and refiguring out who I was and recreating myself. I felt very, very lonely growing up, and really, I mean, clear into my young adult life. What did that feel like for you, and how did that shape this drive that I have watched in you for so many years now?
It's kind of two different questions there, but like the drive came from a deep feeling from when I was really young that I was meant for great things. And I don't know how to describe that other than I just could see it and I could feel it. And I didn't always know how I was going to get it, but I just knew. And there were many days that I just knew that if I just kept one foot in front of the other, that I would be somewhere better, than I was in that moment. And the drive was that, but the drive was also, and there's a lot of layers to that, but I have a sister. One is passed and one is still living. But the sister who is still
That
living,
same thing.
Yeah. The one who is still living, she is she, from the day she was born, she idolized me, and she was a wild child, but always followed in my footsteps. And so part of the drive was I wanted to make sure she had footsteps to follow that were good, because there weren't any from our parents. There weren't any from our family line. There were none. When I say I broke generational trauma, I broke it, broke it, and didn't look back. And so I had her, and then, I had my own children, and your own children create a sense of massive importance, of course, to make sure that you become the very best version of yourself that you could possibly be. And that's why I know, especially with you, where you are right now in life, like just that, like unbelievable burden, because you need to be something that you weren't sure you were capable of being, like knowing you need to be more than just you have to be, so much, for so many. But it becomes a fire, that some people, it's a weight and a fire that some people burn and get crushed under, to be completely honest. But, some people, like it becomes, gasoline on a spark. And those people, I call those people the 1%, the 1% that will never crush, never burn. The 1% will take that weight, take that fire, and they'll make something absolutely beautiful out of it. And so that's the one part of that question. But what was the second part of the question?
Just that idea of like, how did you take that drive and move forward with it? Because I can completely relate to that. And I would say for the last 8 months, I very easily could have succumbed to that being crushed and drowning with my sister's death and becoming the guardian to my 2 nieces. It rocked me to my core. And there was this moment where I knew that I could do one of 2 things. I could succumb, or I could use this as the fuel to do something greater. And that is what this podcast is starting from. It is that moment. And the clip, I want to show a clip of where this all started. And it was I was laying in bed one night, and I was scrolling, and I knew I wanted to do this podcast, and I came across your reel, and it absolutely stopped me. And I was like, that is what is going to start this podcast. That is what I want to focus on, is women and resilience, and how you do really, really hard things and do it anyway. When you are absolutely gripped with fear and you think, oh my God, I'm going to die. This is what started that. Can I share that clip?
I would love that.
Okay, hang on.
Because this is what no one talks about, what it actually takes to reach the summit. The part where it's messy, where it's painful, where every cell in your body is screaming at you to stop. The part where you don't feel strong or powerful or put together. The part where your body has been through hell, but you keep going anyway. Most people only show you the highlight reel, the victory shot, the moment they made it. But this is the part that actually matters, because this is where most people quit. I see it all the time in health too. You push through exhaustion. You keep grinding. You ignore the signs. And by the time you realize something has to change, it feels like you're already at your breaking point. But here's the truth. The struggle doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're in. It means you're on your way. It means change is coming. You just need to be shown the way. When I climbed Ahmedabad as part of my training for Mount Everest, it wasn't the summit that made me stronger. It was this. This is the moment that defined me. When I came off the mountain, looked in the mirror, and I saw my face, I knew it might never look the same again. But I also knew it didn't matter, because I had summited Amma, and that qualified me to go to the top of the world. Does it really matter what it takes to reach your goal? Or does it only matter that you get there? And the same is true for healing. Real healing isn't just about reaching the summit. It's about what you're willing to do to get there. And not everyone has what it takes. But if something in your soul sparked while hearing this, you already have what it takes. The only question is, will you take the next step? The Self-Healing Secret isn't just another health plan. It's the gasoline for that spark, for this moment, for the moment where you decide, am I going to keep spinning my wheels, or am I going to follow the path that actually gets me there?
that had me at hello. And in that, where you say that moment of what are you going to do with it, right? Like if that touches you, and it did. And in that moment, I was like, this is it. I am bound to do something bigger and greater and get out of my own fear and get out of my own way and just do it. And
Yeah.
for that, I am forever grateful. And I mean, you said that when you and I talked that God had to take you up 23,000 feet to show you what you couldn't see any other way. And I get that. Oh, there I'm getting emotional. Because God had to show me this walk of my sister passing and this journey that has been in front of me. And that is my Everest right now. What did God show you, and what happened on that mountain that changed you so profoundly? What was the reveal?
Quick qualifier. This will be a brutal story to tell because I haven't told it before, okay? Outside of very private circles. And I wanted to tell it on your podcast because of what that story did for you. And I felt like how long you and I have known each other and how many times our paths have crossed, that that story, putting the spark in your soul that's allowing you to do this and change your life and so many others in the future, was my sign that it was time to say that story, So again, but I haven't said it before. So you know how when you say the story for the first time, sometimes it comes out with a lot of snot.
That's okay. We can edit snot out. I don't know how yet, but I feel confident we could
It's
edit
got to
snot
be,
out.
it's got to be. So, the interesting thing is, so this story is truly like a pinnacle story. It's not one of the many hundreds of stories that I have leading up to this. So there's so much that lead up to this moment, but the 15-second version of that lead up is, I clearly understand in life that when you are handed something very difficult, that if you can see it as the blessing that it is and find the growth opportunity in it, that you will grow and expand and become a new human that is more capable of anything than you could have ever imagined. And a lot of people, like I said before, get buried under the weight of that, whatever it is, and they feel like they're burning and they just cave. But if you can rise up and push through, you become something so fucking incredible, it's not even funny. And so I've learned in my life to relish the challenge, and I almost crave them and look forward to them because I see the next step, see the more expanded consciousness, I see the beauty and all of that. And so the one thing that had been the thorn in my side, for my entire life had been the feeling of being alone. That's what you mentioned before that I couldn't remember to answer the question. And I honestly, before I went to Ahmedabad, I thought I had conquered that. I really did. And I really had thought that. And I knew that number one, when I was asked to do Ahmedabad. Okay, let me go back for a second because I want to make sure I get all this right. And I'm sorry it'll be choppy. It's the first time I've said it. But I went to Nepal with my children a year ago. So 6 months before I climbed Ahmedabad. And it was interesting because I'm going to tell the rest of this story at the very end of this story. Okay, so just remember that. Put a pin in that because something happened. Yeah, something happened 6 months before I climbed Amma that put the whole story together and just showed me how everything had a plan and I didn't need to worry about a damn thing, So there was something that happened that I didn't recognize until I had come home and seen it. But so I, of course, knew what Ahmedabad is. It's the most technical climb in all the Himalayas. It's a gorgeous mountain. It's very, very difficult. Less people have summited it than they've summited Everest. It's a very hard climb. And in the summertime last year, a friend of mine who is a Sherpa woman, who has many Sherpa friends in the Kumbh region, and that's where she was raised, she had climbed Ahmedabad before. She called me and said, "Would you like to climb Ahmedabad this fall?" I said, "No,
You
because I'm not
climbed
ready."
mountains? Like, was this like for the past decade? Have you been climbing mountains, or is this just come up?
It's just, well, she knew my goal was Everest. So again, there's a path and a plan to climb Everest, and I knew I would probably climb Amadablan, but not in the order that I did it. Because I did figure that was something I would do, but maybe a year after, because I had planned on climbing different mountains before I climbed Ama. But I said no.
But you
I said
hadn't
I'm not.
climbed any yet.
No,
Like
I
you hadn't
had. I
been.
had.
Okay,
Yeah, I've
that's what I
had,
was
but
wondering.
nothing that significant. Nothing. And I don't know how you can train for something that complex and that technically difficult, but I had said to her, I said, I'm not ready. Like, that's so far out of my skill set. Like, I'm not ready. And she spoke truth. She said, you're strong and you're capable. And she said, you want to climb Everest. And she said, a mountain like Amma, I know you can do because I know you. And she said, what it will do is it will expose every single weakness you've ever had that you either thought or didn't think you have. And it will make you so much better prepared for your big goal. I think it is time. And I said yes, and I said yes. And so I knew what I was getting into. I knew it was going to be a difficult climb. I just didn't know how difficult or why. And so to climb Amma is, a 4 or 5 week process. And so I was in Nepal last fall for a long time. And as we started, we'd acclimated, we'd done all the things, and we're getting ready to go up. So when you go up, by the time you go up and come down, that's just a 4-day process of stepping up to Camp 1 all the way to the summit and down. And
Okay.
so as I stepped onto the mountain, just the very best, the first 6 hours as we were trekking up to Camp 1, every step and every breath, I just said, show me what I need to see. Break it down. If there's any hidden piece of my heart, mind, soul that needs to be fixed, from just show it to me. Like, let's make this count, And
It's like a shaman experience. Like the
yeah,
whole thing is like
yes,
ayahuasca,
yes,
climbing a
yes,
mountain, showing it all
yes.
to you.
Yes, 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 100%. And I would love for anybody who's watching this to just Google a YouTube on Amadablan, Amadablam, and you'll be like, like when you. So I think the story will set it
That's how I
all.
felt when I watched your video. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
that is
it's
incredible.
a very complex mountain. And so everything was amazing, wonderful, amazing. This is an almost 23,000 foot peak. During the summit day, it gets as cold as negative 30 degrees. You have to wear all the expensive gear, same as what you'd wear to Everest, the summit suits, the big crampon ice axe boots, the double insulated, everything. Like, it's a serious thing. And summit night, you wake up at 11 o'clock at night, and the night before, and you eat something, and then you go. And so you climb through the night, and then, we're going to summit, around
How
9 in
did
the
you
morning.
see? Like,
You
I
have a
mean, is
headlamp.
it, that's it.
Yeah, yeah, you have a headlamp. Yeah, you have a
Those
headlamp.
aren't even like real temperatures. Those are like Antarctic, not made up
Yeah,
temperatures. I
yeah,
I saw the video and was like, I don't even know how it's
yeah.
humanly possible to survive this kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, with the right gear, I would, with the right, very expensive
And the
gear.
right people, I
Yeah,
assume. Like
yeah,
this
the
is
right
why this
gear and the.
guide is so important.
Yes, yes, you have a guide. Yeah. And what's another thing that made this climb so interesting is we were one of the only teams on the mountain because we were at the very last week of the open season for that climbing.
Oh
And there had
wow.
been a lot of wind and weather that week. And so some of the teams had chosen to go home and not climb because there was so much wind and it's too dangerous up there with all the rock fall with the wind. And I was confident. I was like, I didn't come all the way. I mean, the way God works in my life, like I came over here to climb Mama Dublin. And so it's going to be fine on Summit morning. We're going to be fine. Everyone's just going to go up and it's going to be perfect. We're not going to have, death-defying wind. And we didn't. So, I was correct on that, but that made us where we were literally, truly, there was only one other woman, somewhere on the mountain somewhere that I know of, But so we're all alone, and it's just a very small group of there were 3 Western people, and then our respective guides, all Sherpa. And there was a critical miscommunication on who was carrying my water. And I don't know if anybody knows anything about high altitude climbing. There's a medication you take called Diamox, and it drives oxygen into your red blood cells, but it also dehydrates you. So you need to have a lot of water. And so for about the length of time, from, Camp 2 to the summit and back was going to be about 18 to 22 hours. And I was planning on having 3 to 4 liters of water. And
Okay.
I had 1 liter in my backpack, and I thought somebody else was carrying the water, and they weren't. And so I
Oh,
I drank my water, in the appropriate time, through the night, what I thought I needed. And then that's when I learned that I didn't have any more water. And there's no way to get it necessarily. There's not a Kmart. There's no Kmarts anymore. Circle K. There's no Circle K.
if there's any of those anymore. There's a
I
Maverick. There's no
know.
Maverick.
How old is Don? How old is Don and Michelle? They just said that.
That just showed how old they are.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
And so with the summit push was really difficult, and it was because I was really dehydrated. And
So did you have
I
no water for that entire time then, that whole day of climbing, that
I
next day?
drank the first liter in the first 4 hours, and then had no water or food for the rest of the day. Yeah, it was truly probably the most medically, physically critical shape I've ever been in my life. Like, I don't know how to describe. Like, I've done full distance Ironmans and like pushed my body beyond the physical brink, but I've always had an aid station. I've always had the ability to get a drink or get some salt or something. And at that high altitude, like I didn't have anything. And on the summit push, like I was just, my heart rate was high because it's obviously a high altitude and there's lack of oxygen, but also with the dehydration, my heart rate was really high, and I really felt like I couldn't breathe, and I just couldn't get a good deep breath in. And it's
What did you say to yourself in those moments? Because that to me sounds absolutely terrifying. And when you asked me to climb Everest, I was like, after watching that video, I got to be honest, I don't even like getting cold at
well,
all. Like that seems
I asked you to go
terrifying.
to Everest Base Camp.
Okay, that still seems like Everest. I'm going to be honest. Like even getting to
Well,
base camp sounds
it's base
horrible.
camp. That is Everest for some people, but
Yes.
I'm not a stranger to suffering, and I don't mind it. Like, I really don't. So I wasn't miserable, and I wasn't, panicked or worried or anything. I knew my body was capable of a lot, but this is still the summit push. This wasn't the end of the day. So I knew my body was capable. I wasn't worried. I was fine. I wasn't stressed. I was just making good decisions, and I didn't feel good is all it was. And that was when I made the decision to remove my facial protection, because I couldn't breathe the way I wanted to breathe. And so I remember there was one moment in the day that I thought, you might mess your face up for the rest of your life, Dawn. And I was like, it doesn't matter, Mike, because I need to get to this fucking summit, and I need to breathe. And so what you look like for the rest of your life means nothing, and if I know there's people in the world, and that's why I put that reel out there. I was like, I know there are people in the world who understand that decision. There are other people who are like, doesn't matter, I'm going home. My face means more. Like, to me,
I can
like,
see like that a lot of those moments where most people would pull out
yeah,
and be like, I don't have any water. I'm going to die. My face is
yep.
going to be messed up. Like I'm all done.
And to be honest, at that point in time, I've got a guide, we've got a radio, we can signal, and we can just go home. We were above Camp 3, and we could get a helicopter to drop a little basket and pick me up and take me home. Like, so that
And
was possible.
for some people that three, right? That spot
Yeah.
3 is like an incredible. Like
Yes.
to some people
100%.
that would be like, I can't believe I even got here. Like
Yeah.
what
100%.
did you just keep telling yourself in all of these, oh, I don't have any water. Okay, I can't breathe now. Like what was going through your head in all of those stations?
If I summit and I get down in one piece and on my own accord, I get an Everest permit.
Okay, there it is. All
That's
right.
it. And I know everybody listening knows what I just said. You've said it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not well, I'm suffering, I'm grief stricken, and I've got beautiful children that I'm going to rise for, and I'm going to do it. Like, there's a fire in your heart, and it doesn't
Every
matter
day.
how bad your body and brain hurt, you keep going. and that is the person like that I connect with the very best in life, and that I help is like, what it's like. You have a dream in your soul and you're pushing past the brink of everything anybody else. You can't even explain this to people because society doesn't understand that mentality of being able to say like, I will burn and never flinch, but I'm going to make it, and that's a mentality that that I embody, and I try and I do my best to teach to other people who want to get that, and that when people have that and they have no idea how to free themselves, I know how. Let's go, but yeah, so that's what I was thinking on the up. It was not a scary situation. I wasn't miserable. I wasn't sad. I wasn't anxious. I was absolutely freaking determined. I did not feel good, but I was absolutely freaking determined. There was nothing that was going to stop me. The only thing that would have stopped me that day is like if somebody had to stop me, if there was like truly it wasn't safe or something like that. But it was okay.
Well, I remember you telling me, I mean, and maybe you're getting to that, but this moment where it was basically an internal decision. I can either die here or I can move forward.
That was a little bit later. And so,
Okay.
hit the summit, and I'll try to speed this up a little bit, but hit the summit, and on the way down, on that face, that summit face, you're on a rappel line because it's so steep. It's about maybe an 85-degree pitch. And the rappel line is only hooked into the ice. And so somewhere up there, I don't know when, it just happened, the rappel line broke. And so I fell backwards down this summit face. And I can only estimate, how far I fell. I don't know exactly. I'm estimating 25 feet, but I have no idea, if it was less or more. But I do know that my very strong guide was right beneath me. And because of his strength and his skill, he arrested the fall for both of us, because I fell into him, but my ice crampons went into his leg. And so he was critically injured and bleeding. And so he's somebody that summits Everest every year, like helping clients go up. Like he's a very skilled mountaineer. So he left me there because I was capable of getting off, the summit face on my own. And he ran down, as fast as he could to Camp 3 where he could get the bleeding to stop. And so when I got to Camp 3, the bleeding had been stopped. Long story short, he stayed there with my friend, from the States, who had brought me over there in the first place. And then they sent me down with a secondary guide who was a very excellent guide, with what he did, but he didn't speak English really. And so there was a little bit of a trouble with that because my gear had been lost. And so I didn't have the rappel gear that I was used to using. And so I was descending Amadablin with gear that I'd never used before, and it's like 2,000-foot vertical faces, and one mistake, you fall and you die, that's just it. And so, and again, I don't feel good, the day is just going on, like I'm dehydrated, I'm a little dizzy, at this point, like there's kind of a lot of things, and
Literally like 100 different opportunities to give up. I mean, at that point, like, did you feel like when you started to fall, like, oh my God, this is it? I mean, I would have, I would have been like,
no.
okay, I'm all done. That's crazy.
No. It's interesting. I remember, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't remember being fearful when I had the fall. I don't remember being fearful after the fall. I remember being really worried about like my guide. Like, I remember like it took me a long time to get to Camp 3 because I was on my own. And I remember being very worried, but I wasn't thinking about myself at that point in time. I was just really worried. And then when we got to Camp 3, they were trying to get a helicopter for him. And because I didn't feel good, they said, do you want a helicopter for you too? And
So there was your out, like you had that moment, right? Like I think about all of these stories of resilience, and there's always these moments of like you could quit right there.
yeah, I never even thought about it. I thought if I don't descend on my own accord, I don't go to Everest. And so I was like, I can get down. I can get down. I can do this. I can get down. And so, yeah, the descent was the hardest part of the climb. The summit face, all the things you'd think going up would be the hardest. The descent was the
I
hardest.
mean, yes,
Yeah,
I,
it was.
All of
It
it
was the
sounds hard. Like
hardest.
pick your
It was the
hard, right?
hardest. It was the hardest. Like I was out of gas. I was totally dehydrated. There was no food. There was no water. I didn't have the equipment that I was used to using. I was with a person who was unbelievably helpful and so kind. But again, we had a massive language barrier. And so in trying to describe how to use different equipment and knowing that if I get it wrong, I die, I mean, it was very, very critical. There was one moment where I'm hanging off of a 2,000-foot cliff, and the rope wouldn't feed through the device. So I'm just hanging there, and he's yelling at me down there, like what to do. And I'm literally yelling back and I'm saying, I would follow your instructions, but I don't understand your words. And he's yelling, I'm sorry, my English isn't better. And I'm yelling, it's not your fault. It's like
I
brother.
can't.
It's just,
I
I,
can't.
oh,
Oh,
I tipped him so much afterwards. I was you, thank you, but I was so appreciative of him,
I
but I,
imagine
but
in those moments.
yeah, but I mean, he's strong. I mean, he's Sherpa. He's strong. So he climbs up, and I couldn't have climbed up that fast, but he climbs up and he's trying to adjust my like thing and he's going to unclip me. And he's like, just hold on, and I'm like, but I was like, I was like, I'm not strong enough to hold on. Like, and like, that was the moment where I was like, no, no, no. And I remember like yelling, don't unclip, don't unclip, don't unclip. Like, I was like, no, I'd rather climb back up. Like, I'd rather climb back up and get to the ledge and then unclip, and I can remember that was the only moment where like my brain kind of went to the place of like, I really want to live, I really want to live. And for the rest of the day, I just had this little bubble around me and I didn't really think of what was going on. But if you see this mountain, you'll see that there's tiny little ledges that are like just an inch and you've got these big double insulated boots and I don't have the equipment that I'm used to using and a rappel line is already broke, without anybody's fault. It's cold and, there are ropes that I don't know, how long the ropes would be. It was the end of the season, and so you realize that again, one small step wrong, one tiny little thing, is going to be a critical thing. And so then there came. So now maybe we've been out there for maybe 18 hours, like now, like, and it's
Long time.
Long time. Yeah, a long time. And I don't feel good. I mean, I definitely wanted to drink something, and we got to the point where now we have to do a traverse. And the traverse is apparently one of the most dangerous sections because there's a lot of rock fall that comes over. And so it like knocks you down like a game of whack-a-mole.
Okay.
And so you need to go fast.
Awesome.
Yeah, you need awesome. Yeah, awesome. You
Awesome.
need
Like
yeah,
add that to it. Awesome. Now
yeah,
you
you
get to
need
look
to
for
go
all the
fast.
things that
Yeah.
you're trying to
And there's little
not die.
sections where, yeah, just your foot needs to go on this tiny little inch ledge, and so, and it's really intense. And I knew we needed to go fast. The sun was going down, there was just a lot, like we needed to get back to camp too. And that was the only minute when it just it just flooded in. Like I hadn't let myself think about the day at all. And then like, I just needed a minute and I just said, just give me a minute and just give me a minute. And I just put my head against the wall and I just started crying. And this is what I mean when like God took me to 23,000 feet, like to show me what I needed to see. And in that moment, this, what I'm going to tell you was probably only 45 seconds total. The rest of this story is 45 seconds total. I put my head against the wall and I said, God, do you even see me? I felt like I was this tiny piece of sand, like on just a abandoned piece of the earth, and somebody had just taken one of those cameras and panned out into the Milky Way galaxy, and you couldn't even see the earth. It was so far away, and there I am, just a tiny little piece of sand in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, it wouldn't matter who I asked for help. They can't help me. Like, there's nothing here. Like, it is me. It's do or die. Like, this is it. And I've never been so physically depleted in my life. I mean, I don't know how to describe the physical effort of that climb and the physical effort that long at that height with that cold without any food or water. Like, I've never in my life, like, it was truly, I've never in my life like I've done all these Ironmans and races, and I didn't ever realize that all the pushing of my brain I'd ever pushed, could always stop at an aid station. I could always tap out. I always had a cell phone to call for help. Like this was a time when if I underperformed or didn't perform, I would die. And I had to perform in the worst physical shape of my life. And so I just put my head against the wall, and literally I just like tears. And it was like, God, do you even see me? Like I've never felt like more alone in my life. And it was like, I don't know how to describe the feeling, but it was like every minute I had ever felt alone in my life buried on me like a weight. Like it was like every minute, like almost like your life passed before you, where you could feel every moment, the thousands of moments in your life where you felt like you were all alone, and they all surrounded me in this, like in this just heaviness, like this burden. And I literally felt broken. Like I'd never felt more broken in my life than that exact moment. And the next thing I asked was, I said, and if you do, can you help me? And I'm not kidding you, Michelle. It wasn't 5 seconds. There was another Sherpa, right next to
Out of
me.
nowhere.
Out of nowhere. He wasn't wearing a summit suit, which is what protects you from the cold. He didn't have all the gear you would need. And he's going up. There's nothing up there. You don't go up there that time of night. There's nothing up there, And he's going up, but he's just right there in like regular hiking clothes with a regular pack. And he goes, "Ma'am, would you like a Coke?" And he literally hands me a Coke. Like, literally a Coke.
And other people are witness to this? Like this is this real, or is
Well,
this just God's
I mean,
manifestation?
I mean, that's what people have said to me. They said, "Did you hallucinate?" And I said, "I don't think so, because I drank the Coke and then I gave the empty bottle to my guy that was helping me, so we didn't litter."
So it's real. Okay. So I mean,
I mean, I
I would be hallucinating at that point.
but so, but like, I just remember going, okay, I'm going to be okay. I have just a little bit of calories and a little bit of liquid to get me through one of the hardest parts of this climb. And then, backing up, so again, we get to camp 2 and, all the things, but, then backing up to remember what I told you about like 6 months before when I was in Nepal. So this, I didn't realize, like I was processing this, like really processing what had happened. And I don't know how to describe like just every layer that I had to unpeel to process this, to really truly
It sounds
understand.
like ayahuasca without the vomiting. I mean, that's what
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
all of it.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah,
Visionary.
I would definitely describe it as that. And so I was looking through my camera reel, and I saw that picture where there's this one spot where you're on the Everest Base Camp trail, and we were hiking, and it's where we come around a corner, and you're only in this area for maybe 20 minutes, and there's a perfect view of Amadablam and then a perfect view of Everest. And so of course I have my camera out, selfies, I mean, it's a beautiful view.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
You should
beautiful
just have a
view.
complete GoPro for even doing this. Like,
Yeah,
it's
beautiful
mind
view of the
blowing.
Himalayas. But the reason that this was such a special minute to take a picture was it wasn't a rainy day. There wasn't a cloud in the sky, but there was a beautiful rainbow above Amadablan. And the thing is, and I didn't see it at the time, but the thing is whenever I've asked God for a sign in my whole life, I get a rainbow. Like that's my sign. That's the one that God reserves for me. And
I
when
love that.
I saw that, and I thought, before I even knew I was going to climb on the mountain, God knew exactly what he was going to take from me on that mountain, and in that moment, I knew like what God was saying to me, like, you've never been alone. Like I had to literally take you to the brink of death on the side of a mountain, and like at the worst physical shape you've ever been, at the place on the earth where there was nobody coming to save you. There was nothing. There was no way, no way, I could have learned that, because I'm so bullheaded and I'm so strong, and there's always a way out, right? There was nothing there for me other than like just that utter feeling of alone. And then,
Surrender. Like, I have
I,
to assume that in that
yeah,
moment, like what
yeah,
was being asked of you was to surrender. And I
yeah.
I
Yeah.
get that on such a level, like this
Yeah.
experience with my sister, and
Mm-hmm.
that feeling of looking at God and saying, "Do you even see me?"
Yeah.
I've woken up so many mornings and asked that same thing in just different words of,
Mm-hmm.
"You think that I can do this, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel equipped to do this,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how to, and how can I feel so alone in a
Yeah.
moment in a house of seven, right? With complete chaos all the time. I am never actually, I can't even go to the bathroom by myself. But that feeling, I 100% get.
Yeah. You are
I,
never alone. You're never alone. Yeah. And yeah, and what I really am excited about is that I always thought that, and this is where I just get really emotional because like I've always known I was going to do Everest. I've always known I'd see the top of the world. Like from the time I was 19, I could feel it. I've seen it in my dreams. I've walked the path. I've seen it 1,000 times, and I've just always known that it was a moment that was reserved for me, for making it through so much. And, I've said I've climbed Everest 1,000 times, and I've summited even harder things in my life, and the hardest thing I've ever done is get out of bed on a morning when I couldn't see a reason to. I mean, and that's what people don't understand is like Everest is just a metaphor for everything else. Like, and
yes.
I always thought in my life that like Everest would be the hardest challenge, because like I have so many
Mm-hmm.
race stories, so many stories of that Ironman was harder, this race was hard, like because again, like I love the challenge, I love to overcome, and so I always had this feeling that okay, Everest would be an overcoming story, my greatest one, right? And after I saw that rainbow above Almadablin with like that picture of me, I mean just everything, and realized like what God had planned for me, I I realized that God had saved something for me that was so beautiful. Like he doesn't mean Everest, for me to be an overcoming. He means it to be a celebration. And so like I really realized, well, that was the last thing I had to shed. Like that was the last thing, that feeling of being alone. That was the last thing that I needed to remove in order to be just, have my just heart just beautifully shining around me without those subconscious trauma drama hooks, dragging you down,
Do.
Yeah.
And I
And so,
love that. I love
yeah.
that it's a metaphor because you're right. Like
Yes.
everybody has a heart, everybody has a story. And that's literally the point of this podcast, right? Is that
Yes.
everybody's got a story. Every woman has a story. And
Yes.
and there's so many different Everests, right, throughout your life that you think this has got
Yes.
to be the hardest. Like, come on, God,
Yes.
this is it, right? Like this is
Yep.
the hardest one. And
Yes.
just kidding. No, it's just the start of another mountain. I don't know who
Yep.
said that, but the bottom of one mountain is just the start of another. And or the top of one mountain is just the bottom of the
Yeah.
start of another, right? And that like that is why your story is so powerful because you can insert anything there
You sure
and
can. Yeah.
watch those little places where you're relaying, right? Where you're hooking on another line and you're thinking, "Oh my, it can't get worse than this."
Yes. Yes. But the truth is that, and this is, and again, this is a very deep conversation that, I'm not going to do it justice. This is like 1% of what I could talk about on this subject. But the truth is that what I know to be true in this world is that it doesn't matter who you are, where you've come from, and what you think you can or can't do. If you can have a clear vision in your mind of where you want to go and attach it to a feeling like of joy and gratitude as you're thinking about it, as if it's already happened, you can achieve that. You can tether to that vision, that visualization, and move towards it. But with one caveat, if you have these subconscious hooks that are cycling trauma, drama, victim blame, like all the things, those things can block that visualization. And so the critical thing is you have to learn how to overcome those things. And so like all the people that are out there talking about visualization and stuff, they make it sound so easy. Just think it and
Right.
become it,
Right.
right? It's not. It's not that easy. It is easy, but the hard part is you have to figure out how to get that hook out of your subconscious and let it go. Like free yourself, so that you no longer have that competing like shame, blame, guilt, whatever, signal that's dragging you down. But that's not like you can just wake up one morning and do it. You have to actively seek out the challenge. You have to actively seek out like the situation that is going to let you learn and grow through it. And that's where people miss the mark, is they have something happen that doesn't seem awesome in their life, and sometimes it's often just downright tragic. And instead of asking, what is this designed to help me overcome? Let me see it so I don't ever have to go through this again. Like we could
I
ask
love
that
that.
with every single challenge, like you would be free. Like you would be free. And again, it sounds simple, but it's not easy. And that's one of the key things that I do for people is I help you walk that process, but, in a very, very targeted way. But that's one of the reasons that early on I found so much joy in endurance racing and challenges and all the things, because I realized that every time I crossed a finish line, every time I got to the top of a mountain or something of the like, I healed, I grew. And I just became very addicted to that. I want to heal. I want to grow. I want to heal. I want to grow. And with enough time, you heal, you grow, you become
When
who
I
you
think
always
about
thought
like
you could be.
watching you over this time frame, like it seems like this is what really changed and shifted from what you were doing to what you're doing now. Like is this what shaped that change and provided that clarity to focus so much on helping people to let go of those thoughts and
Yes.
overcome themselves?
Yep. So I'm going to give like the biggest, most unpolitically correct truth bomb that you've ever heard me say.
Love it. That's what this is for. Love
This
it.
is this is reserved for private dinner parties, and but
Which this is a captive audience.
well, and it doesn't matter because so about a month ago, I asked my son to do an interview about when he went to Everest Base Camp with me, and so he was getting interviewed with a video or camera from somebody else. I wasn't in the room, and what his exact words he said was, he said, "Oh, my mom." The last couple of years, she's really adopted a no fucks given approach to life,
I love it.
And
I
so
love it. I'm
this
working on it.
conversation is now the no fucks given approach to life. Okay, so
I
that's
love
what I would
it.
like
I
to
love
say.
it. We
So
should make t-shirts. We should
yeah, yeah.
and what
So
is your Everest, right?
okay, so yeah, no fucks given. And so here's what I do and what I've never said that I did. So when people come into my circle, many times, after a while of working with me, they'll say, this isn't really a health program, is it? I'm like, no, it's not, but like it starts that way, but it doesn't end that way. But here's what I know about healing your body. You can't just heal your body. You have to heal your body, mind, and soul. Like that's just the way it is. You
All
cannot,
together. Hmm.
yeah, all together. Like you can't just do it. And here's the reason is if you're down here, everything is an energetic frequency. And again, I used to never talk about this because you know what? There's certain populations of people who are so freaking judgmental that they hear those words and they're like, I'm going to burn her at the stake, And you know what? If you're that
Right?
judgmental, then I
Right.
guess you'll just never learn how to heal yourself. But I am here to help people who want to literally figure out how to become free and fly in this world, figure out what their purpose is, and go fucking get it. Like that's who I'm here to
I
help. I
love
am
it.
not here to help anybody that wants to stay stuck in a big pile of shit and just keep judging people. And so after I came off Amidablan and I realized that, I was like, I'm just not going to be so politically correct anymore. Like, I'm just going to speak
Life
my,
is short.
you know what? And you know what? And the thing is you want to know what's special about that reel? And this is why I was so honored that you asked me to be here and share this story, and why I knew I needed to is because that reel, I was putting it out there because I wanted to know if it would resonate with the person who is best, that works best with me. And it did. It did. It's not talking about anything really other than it spoke to the person with the fire in their heart. And that's exactly what I want. Like that's who I help. I help people with a fire and just need some gasoline to blow that fucking thing up. Like, let's go, you know? I mean, that's why every one of my testimonials, people are like, you saved my life. You changed my life. Like, it's not because I taught them how to eat right. Like, it's because like, I do
It wasn't
that.
the meal plan.
It wasn't the meal plan. There is a meal plan, but like that's not the
It's the
magic.
energy.
But what it is this. This is the secret. This is the secret. You got to get this. If you can, I know the right people will hear this and they'll be like, that's why nothing works. Okay. It's because when you're down here feeling depressed, hopeless, shame, blame, whatever, like just the lower emotions, confusion, whatever it is, like there's truly an energetic frequency that's measurable. Like, and that level of frequency is not compatible with gratitude, grace. Now, wait a second.
Right.
Abundance and financial wealth. Do you know that you cannot attract money if you are down here? And so you've got all these people, entrepreneurs, everything, who are just grinding, they're trying, they're doing their best, you know, and they're just killing themselves. And they're wondering, why can't I get here? There's a reason for that. Okay, so then, and so I know, and I ask people all the time, how do you feel on vacation? They're like, a lot better. I'm like, yeah, it's because you went up here for a minute. You know, like you went up here for a minute. Up here is not compatible with disease. It's not compatible with a lot of things like this. You can't, but the problem is if you don't know the steps, you can't hold this frequency. You can get up there for a minute, but you can't hold it and you drop right back down. And so I have a true scientific process that literally goes step 1, raises your frequency a little bit. Step 2, here it is. And it's like a little spiral staircase. You just follow the process. You do what I say. And every little thing is designed to kind of give you a little bit more on a higher frequency. It's like self-worth, discipline, new habit, whatever, like all these things. And it is a little bit of time and you're in my circle where you get to surround yourself with a different kind of energy. I call it the Everest energy. Like you don't get that anywhere else. Like you don't get that anywhere else. Somebody who tells you fucking can when you think you fucking can't, like, and will make it so. You know, I mean, pardon my language. Is this a child-friendly, like,
No,
just
nope, you were good.
like,
We checked that box off. Is this for kids?
okay.
Nope.
Sorry,
It's a
I guess
little
you know how
toggle
to.
of a switch.
I guess you can edit. So, but short story is like you learn how to hold the frequency, and then when you get to a certain level, and that level is courage. Did you know that when you hit the frequency of courage? Yes, this is scientific. This is.
But it makes sense.
Yeah,
Because
courage
this whole
is
process of this podcast, once I hit that point, the
Yes.
fear of what anybody was going to think, what anybody was going to say if they listened, or what anybody thought about me being vulnerable or sharing all this, it went away. I've never had an experience like what I have been doing in this short term of getting this going, where the fear is gone. And you were a huge part of that. Like even sharing that I was going to do this, it was like that was like this springboard to launch from, and then everything else past that.
Yes.
Somehow I've been able to check fear at the door. And this is the first time in my life I've ever been able to do this.
Yes. It's because once you hit courage, and this is scientific, this isn't woo-woo, it's not crystals or tarot cards. This is quantum physics, science.
I mean, I love me some good woo-woo.
I can prove it. Yeah, same. But I can prove this. Once you hit courage, do you know what else happens? Your subconscious is able to be accessed. You're able to start processing some of these emotions. And so all
that makes sense.
Is spiral the staircase, spiral the staircase, spiral the staircase, and then when we hit courage, it's go time, you know. And everybody that works for me, or works in my realm with me, I ask them to pick something that's hard. We got to pick something because I'm looking for courage. Like I don't care if you're an Iron Man. I need courage. I need courage.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, because I know.
And do you push them?
Courage.
Like,
yes.
If you told me, like, okay, Michelle, we need to pick something, I would not have picked this podcast. Like this has been like a real little Everest for like this. This has been really, really hard. I've always known that I've wanted to do it. Yeah. But this has been that hump. And I would love to, if you're open to it, do another episode talking about that process and like focusing on that process, because I think there's so many people who don't necessarily have access to you, right? But even getting on that starting ledge of like, how do you start to do this? That 1% of the 1% club, like you were talking about, right? Yep. How does that 1% club start that process? I think that would be a really fascinating discussion.
Yes. And something that I did just put together, because I know that not everybody like financially has access to me,
Right.
is
Right.
I did, and it should be ready next week, but I did just
Okay.
put together a mini course that's like anybody can afford it. If you can afford to go to Starbucks twice this week, you can afford my mini course. But like it
I
is
love that.
truly meant to give you like the starting process of this. And so everybody does have access to it, because I do want people to be able to see and feel like what they're capable of and have actually the resources to get there. So,
I love that. And we will put that, the link to your site. I assume it's on your site. We can put that in the
yeah,
description and in the comments so that
yeah,
if people do want to do that, they can. Because I think all of us we need some help. We
yeah,
need some help along the way, because I truly believe if I knew what to do during all these times in my life, I would have. But
yeah,
it was call them angels, call them whatever you want to. It was the people along the way
yeah.
who helped me
Yes.
overcome myself and get over that ledge. And this process, I have
Yes.
been so surrounded by women in my life
Mhm.
that I don't even have the words for the amount of help that I've received
Mhm.
and what a change in my heart it has
Mhm.
made, and enough so that I'm willing to get over myself to do this in
Mhm.
hopes of helping one woman in this
Yeah.
process. And my hope is to help many, but even if we can help one woman get through something, that's what all of this is worth.
100%. Yep. 100%. But I have a feeling you're
I
going to
am
help more
so
than one.
grateful.
Same.
I am so
Mhm.
grateful to you.
Mhm.
And I
Same.
cannot ever thank you enough for time is our most precious, valuable resource. And I'm so grateful for your time and your friendship and for doing this to see who we together can help. And I hope that we can do some more of these going
I would
forward.
love that. I would have loved that. Thank you, Michelle. You are a beautiful soul. Beautiful soul. Always has been, always will be.
Thank you, Dawn. And thank you to everybody who listened. And if
Mhm.
something in here touched you, please put it in the comments and share it with a woman or anyone that you think that could use some uplifting or that's going through something really, really hard and trying to climb their Everest. Be that light to help somebody else. And that really is what we're all here to do together. So thank you for everybody that was on and listened today. And we look forward to seeing you again on the next Grit, Grace, and Resilience. Thank you.